All right, so this is part 2 of the drill press. We just finished the setup. What we have here is we've got a piece just to experiment with, and you can see how we have that setup, which should be more detailed in the previous video or the other video, depending upon which order you look at it. And so we're going to go ahead and start with the drill press and talk about the different functionality of the buttons. Just like the cold saw, if you follow the arrows and you take the emergency stop off, you will be able to then turn on the press. This is the on button, so that'll start the motor. This stops it. This green button, which tends to confuse people, is just the direction of speed of the spindle when we're in the tapping function. Okay, so what I like to do is, if it's been emergency shut off and you come over here and do that, none of the lights come on. So I like to go ahead and hit the on button, which will go ahead and spin, and then I immediately turn it off. And now the machine's in standby mode. It's ready to start drilling. Let me get this chucked up real quick. Just take a second. And since we're doing that, it fell off and it was a little embarrassing. We'll go ahead and take the opportunity here to talk about how to properly get this bit in there. So you'll see 3 holes. This is not unlike any sort of drill press, it's not special in any certain way. You want to apply pressure to all 3 sides, because when you tighten these down, it unevenly applies force. So you have to come in here and do not over tighten these. The fact that the bit might spin is actually pretty decent in larger bits. It'll help you keep from breaking bits. The 3-sided fluted bits I prefer in my shop, but it's not necessary. And so it also helps if you don't over tighten these, because when you go to loosen it, you're not going to bung up your knuckles. One thing I should say is that you should never wear gloves with this saw, or with the saw, but also with the drill press. This is a dangerous machine in the context of glove use. So, all right. So back to the top panel, we talked about stop. Emergency stops, obviously very useful. If your part starts to spin, hit that, and let's rejig everything and clamp everything back up. Our speed knobs right here. Coolant on and off switch is right here. If we're going to be drilling, you'll see the drill bit icon. If we're going to tap, we can set it over here to tapping. Speeds are geared, so you'll notice there's Rabbit, which is 245 RPM to 2000, Turtle 65 RPM to 540. For most of the work that you're going to do down in this shop with the coolant set, anywhere from 450 to 500 is a good starting point for the RPM for steel and aluminum. You can research online to find different speeds for different materials if you're that interested in it. Over here on the side of this machine, you have your gear shifting for Rabbit. Make sure that obviously the machine's not running when you do this. You can switch from one setting to the next by jogging the chuck or the spindle just like this, and that'll switch you. You're meshing gears up, and that's why we do what we do here by spinning this a little bit. Okay, so just make sure you're in turtle. That's going to give you the accurate RPM reading. At this point, we're going to set up and talk about drilling. So this machine, oh yes, the stop gauge, the depth gauge. This is a good transition earlier from the previous video about setup. We do not want to drill into the table, right? So we have to set the depth gauge here. On this machine, it's a little sticky. It doesn't like to go all the way down. This isn't good technique, but the only way around this at the moment is to lightly tap. Do not overly tap this. It'll get down into position just like so. So we're 0. And if you can, once you're at 0, it'll stay there and slide through, and you'll hit the top, or you'll touch the top of your workpiece. Measure the distance or the thickness of your workpiece. Understand the gap here, and do the math such that, let's say if that's about 1.5 centimeters, and then that's another 1.5 centimeters, so we're looking at 3 total. That means I want to stop from this point about 2.5 centimeters which is going to be right over there. And then I'll tighten that up. And it's not, doesn't have to be exact, just get close. So now I know that because this is tight, when I'm done drilling through the part, I will not bottom out the bit into the top of the table. And it just saves the tool itself. Okay, so this machine is set up for really kind of three major functions. Drill press has got sort of a sub-function to it where it's automated versus just manual cranking. For all intents and purposes, you just need to keep it on manual. To ensure that you're in manual, it's this actuation over here. That's auto, and that's manual. And you can have, there's a lockout for auto.